Mana mana. Mana mana. Mana mana. Hello, Muppet fans, and welcome to the what am I going to say? Not the very first. We've done this before.
The very second.
The very second. I'm going to do this so that when I watch the video, I remember. After you wave your hands, you should edit.
That's a good trick.
We are your friends here from ToughPigs, and we're Jesus Christ, Joe. Oh, man. Hello, Muppet fans, and welcome to the latest ToughPigs Roundtable video chat thing. We're your friends from Muppet fan site ToughPigs.com, and we are here to talk about Sesame Street because guess what? Sesame Street is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. And I don't know if you knew this about us, but we're actually really big Sesame Street fans. Right, guys? Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's amazing that we've all been
I
watching
have
it for
never
50
heard
years.
of Sesame Street before in my life.
Well, so we have some conflicting opinions. This is going to be a really interesting chat. My name is Joe Hennes. Joining me on this call are Ryan Rowe. Hello, Ryan.
Hello.
We also have Evan G. Hey, Evan.
Hey.
Good to see you there. And Oscar the Grouch. Hello, Oscar.
Scram!
Okay, goodbye, everybody. That was it for our call. Thanks for joining. No, that is not Oscar the Grouch. Who are you? You are
I am
Soberman.
Matthew
Hello.
Soberman.
Hey, Matthew. How's it going?
I'm doing great. How are
I'm
y'all?
glad to hear it. I'm sorry that the real Oscar the Grouch is not here. That would have been a really entertaining call, but unfortunately you're stuck with humans.
Yeah.
So in honor of Sesame Street's 50th, we're just going to have a nice friendly chat here all about some of our very favorite Sesame Street things, because there's so many things that Sesame Street has done over the past 50 years. So let's start with let's talk about some of our favorite characters. The characters can really go into a lot of different categories. So let's, to start with, talk about some of the core characters, by which I mean the characters who have appeared in probably the majority of episodes compared to some others. So, Ryan, we'll start with you. Who is one of your favorite core characters from Sesame?
Well, I've always really liked Grover. When I was a little kid, I actually used to pretend that Grover was like hanging out in my room with me. So, and then as I've gotten older, as a sophisticated adult and fan of entertainment, I can appreciate how brilliant a character that is, and Frank Oz's performance with all the layers of Grover as this guy who really wants to get things right but never gets things right.
Yeah, Grover is interesting when you talk about his layers and how that character should be really simple. Like, he's a guy who tries to get things right and he gets things wrong, and that's
Right.
it. And yet, Frank Oz is just doing whatever he wants with that character, and it totally works. And Grover becomes this three-dimensional entity that we all love.
Yeah, he's so earnest, and you really root for him even as he's annoying the heck out of Mr. Johnson at the restaurant.
Poor Mr. Johnson.
Yeah.
I think it's critical when you were like, whatever he's doing, because that's one of the real fun things about Grover is he's the character who winds up in the most situations of anyone. And I think that really is a strength. He's so flexible. You know, you put him anywhere. You put him in a restaurant, you make him a superhero. You put him in a travel agency or a coffee house or any of these places.
Door-to-door salesman.
Yep. And you know how it's going to be, because it's going to be Grover wants to do the right thing, but he just doesn't get it, or he can't seem to pull it off for some reason. But there's so much variety in that routine sameness. It really is like the strength of Sesame Street as a whole kind of comes down to Grover, right? Like the intersection between routine and sameness.
Yeah, you know he's going to teach a lesson by doing the wrong thing and then learning how to do it right, but you just can't wait to see how he's going to get it wrong.
Yeah, that's great. All right, Evan, who's one of your favorites?
So I kind of made a list where I like ranked them in order of how well known they were. So probably my favorite of the characters that people actually know that fit into this core group is Bert, another Frank Oz character. I think as a nerd who writes for a Muppet website, it's easy to kind of see a lot of myself in Bert, in this sort of character who wants, quiet and peace and solitude and his own weird special interests, but doesn't always get those things. and it's just, the older I get, the more I feel like Bert, and I think that says something.
Yeah, I guess being a fan of Paperclips is not that much weirder than being a grown-up fan of Sesame Street.
No, it's very relatable for people like
Yeah.
us.
Oh yeah.
I totally get
feel
that.
like I feel like they've been doing like more with Bert in this sort of like nerd sphere lately, like playing it a little more in that direction with the writing, and I've been enjoying it. I wish I could think of a specific example, but
I mean, the first example I think of is having Bert dress up as Batman.
yeah,
Which, I mean, the new whole Numericon episode of Sesame Street from a few years ago with Bert and Elmo both dressing as Batman, but different versions of Batman. So it's like, yeah, Bert, we can see that Bert is a Batman fan, but specifically 1966 Adam West Batman. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
also his whole like, if you saw a wish pickle when you wish upon a pickle, that whole like obsession with being a weatherman but being too afraid to be a weatherman. I don't know. I really liked that.
Yeah, that's very Bert somehow. Because especially he's lasted almost 5 decades, and we've never seen him like have that specific dream. And yet when he says it, and you go, yes, of course Bert would want to be a weatherman.
Yes.
I love when they do stuff like that in a new production where it's like, well, we've really never heard Bert talk about wanting to be a weatherman before, but yeah, that fits.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Matthew, who's one of your faves?
Well, I was gonna say Grover and Bert, but
All right, who's your third favorite?
No, I'm gonna keep the Frank Oz love fest going and say Cookie Monster. I mean, someone who is both very much in his own sphere and yet also part of the community, like Cookie World. Who else could do that? What other character could so effectively self-parody that focus, that drive, that Elmo can focus on a single topic? Cookie Monster spends his life thinking about a single topic, and yet he's also so diverse. It's kind of like the inverse of Grover, which is why I love when the two are played off each other, is that Grover can be all these different things and still teach the same message, whereas Cookie Monster is this one thing and can be used to teach multiple messages.
Wow, that's a really great observation. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So that's why I love when the two interact.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's awesome.
Cookie Monster is just a perfect example of a character who is one note and really has remained one note for, again, 5 decades. He's kind of in season 1, even if he sort of isn't. But like, it isn't boring. It is legitimately interesting and funny and clever every time.
So as for me, I literally Bert was gonna be the one that I was gonna call out. So thank you, Evan, for starting that off and leaving me with nothing. But the one that
nothing.
One that
There's no other characters.
No, that's it. Yeah, there's only 3 characters on the show. They all thrown before by one guy. No, I would love to talk about the Count for a second. The Count,
breaking the Frank Oz streak.
I'm breaking the Frank Oz streak. We know Frank Oz. He's not watching this thing, man. I need to
I mean, if you are, thank you.
Just I think you're very talented.
The Count. I mean, talking about a one-note character and watching him shine. I've really loved, especially Matt Vogel's performance of the Count lately, because they've been able to kind of trek him out a little bit more often. Probably the most that he has been since the early 90s, maybe even the 80s. And I don't know, just like there's something inherently funny about the fact that like this guy is obsessed about numbers, and he doesn't really care who knows about it, and it doesn't like get in the way. It's not like a nuisance like Cookie Monster sometimes can be. It's just like this super weird quirk, and he totally owns it. And I think it's hysterical. So I really have been loving on the Count.
They're similarly one note, but it's kind of a different dynamic where with Cookie Monster, you're sort of just waiting for the punchline for every appearance of him to be he ravenously eats a cookie. Yeah. But with the Count, it's sort of like he kind of just shows up just ready to start counting at any moment. So yeah.
And there's always something to count.
Right. They're both obsessed with the one thing, and yet they're not really the same kind of character.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Yeah. we'll loop back around to more Muppets in a second, but let's talk a little bit about some of our favorite our Sesame Street humans. Because there've been some amazing humans on the show. We can maybe talk very briefly about a couple of them. Does anyone have a favorite that they wanna talk about?
Maria.
Assuming it's Bob. Let's talk about Bob. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Go ahead, Matt.
I
You wanna
mean,
talk about Maria?
Maria. You want to talk about versatility? Maria could. I think she was probably the most versatile of all the cast members. The fact that, she could be this understanding, patient person, and then, hey, let's cut away to this sketch where she's singing about cream pies and pieing everyone in the face. She could go from silly to serious in a snap.
Yeah.
And the fact that she could do it so convincingly well. I mean, that's what Sesame Street's all about.
She's also the best at doing exasperated takes to the camera when Muppets do something ridiculous.
Ryan, can you do an impression of one of Maria's exasperated takes to the camera?
Can you say something silly?
That's not a telephone. That's a banana.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, no, that's it. If Maria had a beard,
Yes.
that's exactly what she would look like.
I don't know if I quite got that right.
No, but that's the thing. Nobody can do it like Sonia Manzano.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She was the queen of the long take to the camera. I did want to talk about Bob because I love Bob. When I was a kid, I didn't love Bob because I thought he was very milk toast and white bread and other kinds of carbs. And
But
yeah,
he
and
knows
is.
how to use that. That's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
sounds great.
Right. And
And
the
he knows
fact
how to
that-
subvert it too.
Right. Right. That's what I was gonna say is like when you take a guy like that and then you throw him into like a Prairie Dawn costume and put him in a piano, it's hysterical.
Exactly.
It's gold. I think I love Bob for a lot of the same reasons that I love Bert. It's like at first glance, this guy's boring, and like you maybe don't really want to be a part of that. But then you realize I actually have a lot in common with this guy. I actually really like what he's doing with this kind of dull character, or this character that maybe we've seen before on a lot of different types of TV programs. But yeah, Bob cracks me up. I love Bob.
Yeah, he's so straight-laced and wholesome, so it's funny when you surround him with like singing Muppet food or an operatic flamingo and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Triangle Bob, Triangle Pants
Yes.
wouldn't have worked with any other character.
No,
I mean,
not
it
as
helps
funny.
that his name is Bob, but
Yeah, Bob.
Right.
but
And he wears pants
yes,
usually. I assume.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, he does wear pants.
He does wear pants. Yeah. So speaking of Placido Flamingo, as you sort of did just now, let's talk about some of our favorite lesser known characters. Do you guys have any favorite like maybe characters who've only made a few appearances or characters who maybe, when they do show up on the rare occasion, you go, hey, it's that guy who I love. Evan, yeah.
So I'm gonna jump to the bottom of my list of characters ordered in terms of how well people know them. I was a huge fan as a kid of Monty. Who
Monty,
was,
I actually wrote down Monty as a possible answer to this question.
Yeah, so most people probably don't know Monty. He was voiced by Marty Robinson, right? Or performed by Marty Robinson.
I believe so, yeah.
And Monty was basically a Monty Python character. I mean, that's why he was called Monty. He was just this bumbling, like, British guy who always got things wrong and really, really annoyed all of the other characters. He wore a bowler hat and a suit. And even as so he appeared a bit in the 90s, and that's when I was the right Sesame Street watching age, right? And I remember thinking that stuff was hysterical. And I had no familiarity with any type of British comedy. I had never seen Monty Python when I was 5 years old. And I was like, this is brilliant. There's this one song he sings where it's like, what do you say when you answer the phone? You say watermelons and cheese. And I still will reference this. It's a whole song.
Yeah, I think we've talked about before how there are a lot of characters where the thing is just like they do the wrong thing, or they kind of do the dumb thing and they have to be corrected. But yeah, if I recall, Monty's thing was that mostly he would just do the most nonsensical thing.
Yeah, it was even more ludicrous and out there than
He wasn't
Grover.
just dumb,
Like-
he was also just bizarre.
Yeah, like Grover might bring you a grapefruit on a hamburger bun, but at least a grapefruit is a food.
Right. Monty would bring you a telephone or something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he would understand when you explain to him that a grapefruit isn't necessarily something you put on a burger.
There was also some great things with Monty and Prairie Dawn. Prairie Dawn,
Oh,
The Adventures of Prairie Dawn. Prairie Dawn eats a kumquat. That is, I don't know, that stuck with me all these years.
All right, Ryan or Matthew, do you have a favorite character you want to talk about?
I wanted to mention Meryl Sheep.
Oh.
Was,
Let's talk about Meryl Sheep.
Yes, a sheep character who was on in the mid to late 80s. I was a little bit past the regular Sesame Street viewing age, but my younger siblings were watching around that time, so I would occasionally, see what was going on the street. And I thought the character was funny then. She was performed by Camille Bonora, whom we definitely don't talk about as much as we should, because she was all over the show in those days, playing so many different characters. And she had this funny accent, and I guess I realize how funny it was that there was a character on this preschool show who was basically a parody of pretentious actors. Because she's kind of always like, okay, I'm ready. I'm auditioning for my big scene. I'm practicing for my big scene, that kind of thing. So, yeah, Meryl Sheep. Nobody really remembers her, but she was great.
Oh, that's a good answer.
uh,
Matthew?
oh man, there are so many names running through my head right now. I mean, I'm thinking of, well, the first one I want to talk about just for a brief second is Mr. Johnson, because Grover is great, but when you put him with Mr. Johnson, it is next level stuff. So just that wonderful interplay, and that's just a testament to how well Jerry and Frank work together.
True. And something that I think we were talking about the other day is how lately Sesame has been kind of testing the waters with putting Mr. Johnson out there without Grover, which is
Yeah.
interesting. We saw, let's see, I believe in the Wish Pickle special, he's there without
Mhm.
Grover, and then
Mhm.
again at the recent Jazz at Lincoln Center show, he had a little moments in People in Your Neighborhood without Grover, and it is actually interesting to see that. I mean, personally, I think he does work as a character on his own. I think he's really funny.
It does take some adjusting, I'll say this,
Well,
because
I
you're
think
so
that-
used
yeah.
to seeing.
In When You Wish Upon a Pickle, he's waiting to be served at Hooper's
Yes.
store, right? So
Yes,
But
yes.
he's still
Chris
playing
that he's
the part of
going well.
the frustrated customer, but for a different reason than usual.
Well, right, but in that one, he's frustrated, but like there's no like chaos ensues to kind of
Yeah.
do anything that Grover would normally do in the restaurant.
Right.
But he is a runner throughout the episode or
Right,
throughout
and
the
if
special.
you're gonna have a frustrated customer character, you might as well use Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, totally,
Absolutely.
exactly.
And
Go ahead. Sorry.
so the other pair I wanted to talk about that I don't think you see on the show anymore, Biff and Sully.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
Such a great pair. I mean, sort of in that tradition of the Buddy and Jim, Larry and Phyllis, I think.
Oh, I'm so
Just
glad you
that
mentioned Larry
duo.
and Phyllis.
But those duos where it's clear one person doesn't know what they're doing and the other person does, and maybe it's the person who doesn't know what they're doing that's being more vocal, more active. Meanwhile, Sully's just getting the job done.
Well,
I mean,
I
isn't
will
that
say,
how it always goes? Just
well,
in
that's
life?
that's a good
Yeah.
description of Biff and Sully. But the human characters that you just mentioned, it's neither of them know what they're doing. But one of them is probably more of the one
Right, true.
more so. One of them is acting as if they know,
Yes, and
but
the
they're
other
still
one,
probably wrong. Yeah,
and
but
the
still,
other
either
one,
way,
like,
yeah, the dynamic
trying
is
to be-
similar, and it's always hysterical.
the buffoon and the straight character.
I think when I was a kid, I always wondered if Sully actually could talk, or if Biff never gave him a chance to.
Well,
So-
Sully's the one who taught Biff that there are 5 fingers on his hand, and he can
Right?
think of them.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
don't
it's-
hear Sully say that, but Biff explains that Sully taught him.
Yeah, on that
What if
record.
Sully's
That's
a
interesting.
monk and He's taken a
Ooh.
vow of silence.
That's interesting.
Although
He
I
has
think
all
there
this
are,
wisdom.
I think there are a few scenes where he starts to talk, like he opens his mouth, and then Biff just starts talking instead.
Well,
Yeah.
that could also be it. That could
There's
also be
also
it too.
there's also something to be said for Richard Hunt's performance as Sully, which is hysterical. And I don't really know many other puppeteers who can make a silent character so funny. But like his takes to the camera, and there's one episode where they're trying to move a piano, and Sully is playing the piano beautifully,
Yeah.
and you just see him like just like loving the music. It's hysterical. Yeah.
I think he also is the design of that puppet is really funny, where he has the long head and eyebrows but no eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's just a funny looking character.
Sully's great. We can all agree Sully's great. You know what else is great is some of the Sesame Street specials in the movies.
Oh.
Do you guys have a favorite that you want to talk about?
I mean, could it be anything other than Christmas Eve on Sesame Street?
Sure can, but let's talk about that first.
That's a good one.
Which
Well,
we
I've
do
also-
annually, just about.
Yes. It's a great show about faith and belief, but it's one of those, obviously Christmas, the holidays are a time to talk about faith and belief, but it does it in this way that is not religious. It does not have it, but you can see where it goes there. It's something that as a grown-up you see a whole nother level to it.
Yeah,
but it's a great story, such great music.
And what I love about that special in particular is there's so many different things because they have different storylines that kind of overlap with each other.
Yes.
And so, you do get, some of the more serious stories that may be a little bit more about faith. You get some very silly stories like Cookie Monster trying to write a letter to Santa Claus. You get the fun stuff with the kids talking about how Santa gets down the chimney. And
he gets his Santa Claus keys.
Gets a Santa Claus. He steps on the step and he pushes the button and he's in.
He
Well,
gets
there
it.
you have it.
He gets it. I mean, that whole special is gold from start to finish. It's one of the best things Sesame Street's ever done.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to do, because I've been the one reviewing the more recent HBO specials that have been coming out. Magical Wand Chase is great. Once Upon a Sesame Street Christmas, probably their second best Christmas production. When You Wish Upon a Pickle was fun. Magical Wand Chase, I will argue that you could have taken that, expanded it by 30 minutes to another hour, and that could have been the third Sesame Street movie. And it would have worked perfectly, because it is this great adventure out in the big world. They're learning this appreciation of the world outside your door. And it's also got good music, a great human celebrity appearance by Elizabeth Banks. I really think it could have been the third movie.
I have to confess, I have not actually seen that one, but I did find Once Upon a Pickle, or When You Wish Upon a Pickle, quite entertaining.
Yeah, I prefer Wish Pickle to Magical Wand Chase. I love Wish Pickle. I think that's the best thing Sesame's done in years. But my favorite special is probably Don't Eat the Pictures.
That was the one I wrote down too.
From the 80s. Yeah. That's great. For those of you who don't know, the Sesame Street gang gets stuck in the Metropolitan Museum of Art overnight and learn about art appreciation and ancient Egypt. Big Bird fights a demon. That's not like me doing a bit. Big Bird fights a demon.
Big Bird saves the soul of an Egyptian prince by fighting a demon played by James Mason.
Mm-hmm. Yep, this is all true. But it's great. The songs are amazing, and it's actually a lot of fun. On a personal note, when I first moved to New York, I went to the Met, and immediately when I went home, I watched Don't Eat the Pictures, and it's just fun to see like the same things twice and like get that experience. So it'll always have a really special place in my heart because I sort of associate it with that.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like in that one that everyone gets kind of at least their own little thing to do. Like there's a great bit with Ernie and Bert in front of the painting of George Washington crossing the Delaware. Grover has a a bit where he mistakes a suit of armor for a live person and tries to befriend it. And Olivia has a really nice song. So it's like everyone kind of gets their own little moment in that.
Well, and Paul Dooley gets his own little moment as well.
Yeah.
Good old
Paul
everyone's
Dooley
favorite Sesame Street character,
as
Paul
the
Dooley.
security guard. Yeah.
That's right. One of my favorites, and this is a lesser known one, but it's really fun to watch. I believe it's on YouTube if you want to go searching for it. But it's Julie on Sesame Street, where Julie Andrews, from what I understand, Julie Andrews wanted to make a Sesame Street special, but she didn't want to come all the way to New York, so she paid to have a almost exact replica of Sesame Street built in the UK and flew out all the puppeteers and the puppets. So that was preferable to her than to spend one plane ticket coming all the way to New York.
What year did that come out?
I don't know off the top of my head.
It was just a couple of years before the Muppet Show.
Yeah,
and
it's
when you look
I
at
was
it,
gonna say, well,
when
half the performers were already there, but wow, this was pre-Muppet Show.
But when you look at it knowing that, it kind of reads like Jim Henson wanting to show it. Look how great the Muppets are in a variety show.
Well, that's everything I was just gonna say, Ryan, about how
okay.
it very much acts as like a proto Muppet Show because there's very little educational value, if any at all, and it's basically the Sesame Street characters doing sketch comedy and singing songs and stuff, and it's awesome because we love how fun and funny these characters are, and we get to see them through that lens as opposed to like, well, this is a really funny sketch, but like we also have to listen to them read the alphabet 4 times in a row.
Yeah, they don't have to teach lessons. That's a good thing about all of these specials, really. They don't have to do letters and numbers and things like that. They can just focus on being entertaining and funny.
Yeah.
Going back to Julie on Sesame Street, I just want to shout out, like, there's no place where that's more obvious, I think, than Hey Big Spender, the Cookie Monster number, which there is nothing that feels more like a Muppet Show sketch. There's nothing Sesame Street about that. I mean, he's pouring salt and pepper on, like, Julie Andrews' leg at one point, if I recall.
Yes.
And it ends with him eating a bomb. Like, that's not a Cookie Monster.
He doesn't
but
just eat a bomb. It's like he eats a bomb, and then Julie lights a candle, feeds him the lit candle, somehow doesn't actually light the puppet on fire, and then he explodes.
But, like, it isn't Cookie Monster, but it is Cookie Monster. Like, I buy it.
If it was the Muppet Show, that would have been Luncheon Common Monster.
Yeah. I mean, it's Cookie Monster because he's eating everything, but it's a totally different thing than what you would see on PBS.
Yeah. It's the Muppet Show. That's exactly what it is. I hate to say that my favorite Sesame Street thing is the Muppet Show, but man, there it is.
Favorite Sesame Street special is a Muppet Family Christmas.
That's a great one.
That counts.
I mean, it's not primarily Sesame Street, but yes, there's a lot of Sesame Street in there. And Grover as a mouse who is not stirring. Note how the hand never touches his moon, and he's so proud of it.
All right, so let's move on. So Sesame Street is so much more than just the Muppets. Do you guys have any favorite non-Muppet or I'm going to include the Sesame Street humans in that? So non-Muppet or Sesame Street human segments, like the animations or any of the short films, anything like that?
Well, go ahead, Brian.
Oh, so my parents tell me that every time Teeny Little Super Guy came on, I would jump up and start dancing around the living room.
By the way, I love that
dancing. Why
when
not?
you said that just now. Both Evan and Matt did a little dance.
Yeah, Teeny Little Super Guy.
Because I was just gonna talk about Teeny Little Super
Guy.
Guy.
Oh, there you go.
That's how great he is. He's got this appeal that you just gotta say the name and people go, "Oh, I love that guy."
It's such a bizarre concept too when you stop and think about it. Like
I don't know how they ever came up with it, but I love it. It's that he's sort of this like local community hero, I guess, who helps people in his neighborhood, which happens to be a kitchen, and he's a guy painted on a glass who helps other people who are painted on glassware and silverware, and
he kind of dances.
I kind of always pictured him as like Ed Asner, just showing up. Like,
in the movie,
you guys need anything? Oh, just make sure you play a baseball game. All right, goodbye.
And I still don't know how they did that animation. Like, how do you make a cup like phase through a wall or a cabinet shelf? I have no idea how they did that. I still don't know.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. I went to I think last month the Sesame Street Short Film Festival at the Museum of the Moving Image, and it's you just saw the breadth and variety and the different approaches to these short films that are great. It was the first time I'd seen Cowboy X, which I don't know if you know,
Yeah.
is just this cowboy who runs through branding X's
Oh,
on
yeah.
everything, including the townspeople. And so the whole premise is them asking the cowboy to stop branding X's, and he's like, "Oh, okay," and he starts branding everyone with O's instead. And the narrator just says, "And the people were glad because they weren't very smart."
That's
Ugh,
good stuff.
Just
Yeah.
so many different varieties. William Wegman's Dogs, another highlight, and he was there to talk about that. Oh, just so
I
many
didn't-
different approaches that.
I didn't love the dogs personally.
No?
Oh, okay.
That's not my thing. It weirded me out.
No. It's
Yeah,
so
no-
whimsical, though.
Yeah. No,
Maybe
normally
it's
I
something
like
you
dogs
appreciate
running.
more as an adult.
Yeah.
And,
Or a dog.
and Jim Henson's short films. I mean, King of Eight.
Yeah.
I was just watching that last night. Just the artistry, and still Jim Henson's brand of humor.
Totally.
Just wonderful.
Personally, I love the Bud Lucky cartoons.
Yeah,
that's
So,
that's
I mean, everyone loves Ladybug Picnic, the
Alligator
Alligator King, the King, the Queen of, oh no, the Martian Beauty. Martian Beauty is what it is. Yeah, all those. I think those songs are so catchy. I love the animations in them. They're easily some of my best animated anythings in the world, not just Sesame Street.
Oh, yeah. When
Hey,
I watch
where Pixar
old,
started.
That's right.
True.
Yeah, all related to Pixar. Yeah.
when I watch old episodes of the show now, I'm also really struck by the live action films of animals and nature scenes and stuff like that, which I think I might have thought was boring when I was a kid, but I realize also that oh, you too?
I hated them as a kid.
Yeah, but when I
Like,
look
get
at
back
it,
to the Muppets.
but when I see it now, like just like a 3-minute film of a sloth climbing a tree with this,
Oh.
languid music playing, it was also kind of like the first nature documentaries that I ever encountered.
Yeah.
So it kind of opened my mind to the world.
but
Oh.
those clips were better when Joe Raposo was singing a whimsical song about how
Yeah.
he was an aardvark, or
Peanut
Right.
butter.
like
I
there's a
love the
bird
peanut
on
butter
him
song.
or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yes, There's
yeah.
a Bird on Me is one of the great ones.
It's great.
Oh,
It's great.
I love peanut butter. That is like, I'm surprised when
I also
you
love
know,
peanut butter. It's delicious.
celebrity when celebrities go up and accept awards and they like just spout off some nonsense because they really don't want to give the usual speech. I'm surprised no one's used the lyrics to Peanut Butter, because in the end it takes a lot of little nuts to do the job for
Yeah.
anything.
Well, Matt, if you ever win an Emmy, I hope that's your speech.
Yes, we will be expecting it.
So let's move on. This is becoming a very long video, so let me ask you my last question for now. What is your favorite Sesame Street sponsor? Mine's
Letter
the letter
D.
D. Did you say D?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. It's official. It's D.
Okay, so
D!
I'm thinking right because of the
Superman.
Superman bit in the test pilot where he's fighting a giant ape and then says D, even though the animation has nothing to do with the letter D.
Can I tell you something? I actually found an episode recently, like an actual episode, not just the test pilot, where they show that.
Oh,
So
they
it's
used
not just
it.
in the test pilot. There's
Ah.
an actual, like, there's an old episode, at least one, where Superman fights a giant ape. What does he say? Like, go back to Neverland or something
It's
like that?
time to send you
You're
back
getting
to the
a
land
one-way
of Nod.
ticket to
He's
the
not-
land of Nod.
Yeah, Land of
Yeah.
Nod. And then he
because
punches
he's
him,
hitting
and then
someone with a door.
and then
Right.
he.
I guess
No,
the
it's
door
camera.
starts with D, but he never explicitly says that. He
And
just
eight-
shouts D.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
doesn't start with D.
No.
No. I mean, if you misspell it, it does.
What,
Sure.
Door doesn't
Hmm.
start with D.
No, ape.
No,
ape.
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 But he's hitting the ape with a door.
It's funny. I don't think I've ever noticed that he's hitting the ape with a
Technically.
door. I'm so busy looking at Superman. Like, why is he on this episode of Sesame Street?
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Punching a
sure
giant
it's a
gorilla.
door.
Also D because of the Ernie and Bert song DDD, which is very catchy. And that one Muppet sketch where a Muppet is waiting for the subway and he says, "Excuse me, is this the D train?" And then the D train pulls up and a bunch of little Muppet letter Ds come out and they're going D D D D D D D D. Yeah.
I can't argue with that.
That's good stuff.
The letter D.
All right. So, anyway, is there anything that you guys want to shout out that maybe you wrote down that you want to mention as one of your favorite Sesame Street things? Anything at all?
I also wanted to mention, as far as the major characters, favorite Muppet characters, Prairie Dawn, who is great and also underrated.
On my list.
And with the humans, I always liked David. He was just like a cool dude who worked at Hooper's and just seemed like he would be really cool to hang out with.
People don't talk about David as much as they should.
Right.
Yeah, David was great. Yeah. Evan, did you have anything else you want to mention?
I was going to shout out Mr. Noodle. I love Mr. Noodle.
Which Mr. Noodle?
Mr. Noodle.
Oh, okay, got it.
The original.
Yeah. Mr. Noodle. Mr. Noodle's brother, Mr. Noodle, is okay. Some of the newer Mr. Noodles I haven't been sold on yet. But Miss Noodle is better in other media, like Pushing Daisies and on Broadway. But no, Mr. Noodle is great. It's some really great slapstick, and he has such a fun like outfit and design. And Elmo's world can be a little boring. No offense to Elmo.
Oh, no offense to me. I was gonna say I didn't make it. I don't care.
I don't think Elmo's here.
Okay, well, if Elmo were here, no offense, your world can be a little boring. But Mr. Noodle is always very exciting.
Yeah, great choice. Yeah, Matthew.
I forgot to mention this when I was talking about Cookie Monster, but the genius that is Monsterpiece Theater. Love that bit. Just so much fun when they get to parody things, and the fact that they found this vehicle to just do parodies with and have Cookie Monster interplay with it and just be his awesome self. I mean, if there was any segment I wish they would bring back, it would be Monsterpiece Theater.
I guess
I like that.
Cookie's Crummy Pictures was sort of a modern
sort of
update
a successor to that.
Well, and I guess Monsterpiece Theater also kind of cemented Cookie Monster as being Sesame Street's poster child for the spoof.
Yeah.
Even if he wasn't a part of the spoof, Cookie Monster is the one who, can guide you into that world of spoofery. It's a word. Look it up.
Yeah.
Or don't. Cool. Well, hey guys, thanks so much for joining me on this fun chat about Sesame Street's 50th anniversary. Hope everyone out there, of course, I hope everyone out there enjoyed listening to us ramble about some of our favorite things. If you want to tell us about some of your favorite Sesame Street things, please leave us comments in the YouTube channel or on Facebook or Twitter or on the ToughPigs forum or down, as Ryan says. It's down there somewhere.
Down there under. Yeah.
And of course, please visit toughpigs.com, follow us on social media, and stay tuned for more fun videos from your ToughPigs pals coming soon. Thanks for joining us.
And we'll be back here in 50 years.
Yeah, we'll see you at the 100th anniversary.
Yep.